Hello guys, welcome back to a brand new video on Lexalexus. Today we are celebrating and predicting our Boxing Day score predictions for the Championship. It's always my favourite time of the year, not only because it's Christmas, so happy Christmas Eve to you all, but it's also a great time to kick your feet up on Boxing Day and have non-stop football, and that's what we're getting. And then within a couple of days we have so many games to predict. It's going to be non-stop content on this channel for the past couple of weeks or so it's always exciting. I'm wearing my Christmas jumper. I'm hoping you guys are feeling extra festive today as well. If you guys enjoy what you see, please smash the like button. It really helps. Please hit the subscribe button too. It really helps as well, and please sharing the channel too really helps as well. That will be the greatest Christmas present for this channel, but ultimately you spending your time leaving your predictions and leaving your comments is the greatest gift I can ever ask for. But without any further ado, let's start predicting our Boxing Day set of predictions. We start things off with Blackburn and Sunderland, which I think will be a very interesting encounter because both sides had a result that they probably weren't expected to get in the way that they got it. So Blackburn were involved in a dead rubber game, I've got to say, against Millwall. It looked like it was going to be a dull 0-0 draw, but they lost it late on with a late Ivanovic goal from Millwall, and it was their first defeat, Blackburn, in 6 games. So I'm going to be intrigued now to see, can they bounce back from that? But against the Sunderland side, who have really improved their form actually very recently, I think that's going to be a very tough test. Sunderland were involved in a comeback against Norwich. They are having a habit recently of coming from behind and managing to overtake the team and performing a comeback. They did so against Swansea recently, and they did so again against Norwich, with the help of having a numerical advantage for most of the second half. But either way, they did manage to get 3 points in the end, and it is really good form. I think it's 3 wins in their last 4 games for Sunderland, so their form has really started to improve. And with a prediction here, whilst Blackburn have got a very strong home record, and a draw would not surprise me, I think I'm really liking the confidence I'm seeing in this Sunderland squad at the moment. I think pound for pound, I think they do have a little bit more quality on the pitch. And as a prediction, I could see Sunderland nicking this by 2-1 win. Maybe a little bit similar to their other games where they maybe concede first, but then Sunderland just pull off a madness and they pick up 3 points again. It literally wouldn't surprise me. That's what they've been doing the past couple of weeks, and maybe that will continue there in the madness that is Boxing Day. But let me know what you think as well. Next to predict is Bristol City and Luton Town. Again, 2 sides with very differing results. Now, I actually saw Bristol City in a live watch along I did a couple of days ago against West Brom, and I had decently high expectations, I think, for both sides because they both have posed some really good runs of form as of late. But I was not really impressed with Bristol City, unfortunately, against West Brom. They didn't really lay a glove on West Brom at all. Alex Palmer, I'd made one noticeable save, but other than that, it wasn't really anything that West Brom would put in any danger at all. It was a little bit of a concern, and their form, Bristol City, has been a little bit poor recently. It's 4 games without a win and 3 defeats in those 4 games as well. But what I will say, 3 of those 4 games they did not win, they have all been away games, and Bristol City have notoriously been a little bit more poor away from home than they have been at home. And actually the one home game they didn't win, if you remember, was against QPR, where they probably should have won that game by a couple of goals, but they just did not take their chances. Luton were involved in a home win against Derby. They left it very late to get that win, but fair play to them. They're getting some really good results at home. But less could be said with their away form, the better. It's been a very poor away showing for Luton this season. And I think whilst they do have differing results with the positive side of Luton, but then the negative side of Bristol City in their last game, I mean, Bristol City have shown that they can play really well at home. Luton have not convinced me they can play well away. Therefore, as a result, I'm going to go for Bristol City win. I'm going to go for maybe a narrow 2-1 win, but should be an interesting encounter. Next up, we got Coventry and Plymouth. So Coventry were involved in a game they would want to forget, anytime soon. They were involved in a 4-1 defeat against Portsmouth. Certainly their goalkeeper and their defence certainly did not have a really good day at all, and they'd be wanting to try and move on to see if they can kick on with their form going into this game against Plymouth. And Plymouth will be a side that maybe they would have wanted to play based on how poor Plymouth have been away from home all season. But Plymouth, recently I have seen that they have shown some really good fight. They are currently within the relegation mire, but they are scoring goals. So it gives me a little bit of optimism that if they could just sort out their defensive side of you, then Plymouth could be okay. But right now, they seem to be doing quite well scoring goals, but they just cannot prevent goals going against them either. So I think we'll see goals. Both sides have proven that we will see goals, but it's tough on this. It's going to be an interesting contest to see Frank Lampard against Wayne Rooney as well. Former Derby County managers going up against each other too. As a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to Coventry. With them being at home, I think that does give them a bit of an advantage. And for the fact that Plymouth have been as poor they have been away from home, I think it's going to be a Coventry win. Next up, we see Middlesbrough going up against Sheffield Wednesday. So Middlesbrough were involved in a crazy game against Plymouth. I didn't even mention Plymouth when I was previewing them in their last game because they were involved in a 3-3 draw. It was a crazy game, and actually Plymouth took the lead 3 times. But you also got to put the praise to Middlesbrough to go behind 3 times and to still fight back and get something. It does show a test of character with this Middlesbrough side, and that is why they're still keeping consistent enough results to stay within that top 6. But Sheffield Wednesday are a team I think Middlesbrough need to worry about. I think I saw a stat recently that apart from the top 4, no other side in the Championship has picked up more points than Sheffield Wednesday in the past couple of months. So Sheffield Wednesday are certainly starting to accelerate up the table. So it's a good time for Middlesbrough to see if they can put an end to this momentum that Sheffield Wednesday have. But it could also equally be a big opportunity for Sheffield Wednesday to see if they can get a good result here. They will certainly feel like that they can mix it regarding the top part of the Championship, which is exactly that maybe they would have wanted to be maybe in a couple of seasons, but maybe not in a whole season after when Danny Röhl came in. Prediction here, I think it's going to be a close game. Don't see many goals. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends in a draw. I'm going to go for a very narrow 1-0 win to Middlesbrough. Them being at home, I think, is a big advantage, and they have been very strong at home. Sheffield Wednesday have been good on the road, so that's why I'm a bit conflicted by that scoreline. And as I said, a draw wouldn't surprise me, but I do think, pound for pound, I do think the squad for Middlesbrough is a little bit stronger for Sheffield Wednesday. With them being at home, I think that might edge it, but honestly, it is so close, it could go either way. Next up, we see Norwich going up against Millwall. This is going to be an interesting encounter, I think. Norwich, his form has not been great. 3 defeats in their last 4. They are certainly struggling now, and it's one of those ones where you think that they will turn the form around, and then suddenly, a couple of games later, they do fall down the table a bit. But I will give them a little bit of backing. They did just play Burnley and Sunderland back-to-back, and that is a very, very tough set of games to have back-to-back. But Norwich would argue if they do want to be up there within the playoffs like they were last year, they need to be getting results against these sides. Not necessarily winning, but they do need to at least put a stop to the teams above them trying to push further distance from them. Millwall did have some poor form, of course. It was one of their first couple of games without Neil Harris in the dugout. But they did pick up their first win in quite some time. As I mentioned, that Ivanovic late goal against Blackburn was the difference in the end, and it was just a rare moment of quality going into the back of the net in a dead rubber game. I do think this game's going to be an interesting one. I do think Norwich will be a little bit better for this one. I do remember in one of their later last home games, they beat Luton Town by 4-2. I do think Millwall are around that level, maybe a little bit more advanced for what Luton have shown, especially with their away form. But I'm going to go, a draw wouldn't surprise me, but I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Norwich, maybe a little bit reluctantly based on their form. But I do think the options they have can expose Millwall. It's just a question, can they take their chances? Because if not, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a draw or even Millwall taking all 3 points. It's really going to be down to Norwich's conversion rate that will define this game. This game could be so important going into the end of the Championship. It's Oxford and Cardiff, and I'm struggling to predict this one. One of the major reasons I'm struggling with Oxford right now is because now this is going to be their first game with Gary Rowett in the technical area. When he watched Oxford last weekend, when they lost by 4-0, He was announced as a manager, but he, of course, did not have enough time to put any of his procedures in place. So now they're having a little bit of time with Gary Warrett trying to implement a game plan. It could either make or break them. Cardiff are going through a winless run at the moment. They're really struggling with their form currently. But what I will say, in their last couple of away games, I thought Cardiff have been okay. If you remember, they drew 2-2 with Stoke, where they were so close to 3 points, but they were very, very unlucky in the way that it ensured as well. And Coventry as well has been a recent game where they were a little bit unlucky not to pick up 3 points as well. So we could easily see another situation like that, but I'm really struggling to call this one. A prediction here. I'm a little bit more confident with Cardiff as I am with Oxford, but Oxford could really prove to be having an unbelievable managerial bounce. It's just so hard to call. I'm going to compromise and go for a draw. I've not predicted a draw, I don't think, so far, actually. So let's actually go for a draw. Let's actually go for a goal-scoring 2-2 draw again. Cardiff seem to be involved with getting these draws away from home at the moment, so I think there'll be another one of those here. But let me know what you think as well, because this is a huge game. 23rd against 22nd. It could be a really important game come the end of the season. Next, we're predicting Preston and Hull. This, I think, is going to be an intriguing one. So Preston were involved in a defeat late on against QPR last weekend around. It was Preston who took the lead, but ultimately QPR were knocking on the door. Then Preston were reduced down to 10 men, which did give a big help and a little bit of a sense of hope for QPR to pick up all 3 points, and they did. A big win for QPR, but certainly a defeat that didn't bring Preston any favours at all. But a game that did bring Hull favours was their last game. They beat Swansea City by 2-1, and because of that, they're not rock bottom of the table, and in fact, they're not even in the bottom three. They are just above it now in 21st place, and that is how tight it is between the bottom teams of the table. One win can make you jump up to 3 places, which is absolutely crazy. So any win that those teams are going to get from then on in and to now with the quick turnaround of games could make a huge difference if they can keep the momentum up. I do think Preston at home have proven to be pretty solid as a whole. They have actually picked up some really good home results as of late. That 1-1 draw against Leeds where they conceded late on, that easily could have been 3 points for Preston there as well. So I do think they've got a good strategy for how they approach home games. It's just been away from home where Preston have been really struggling. They only picked up their first win away from home quite recently against Cardiff. With Hull, their away form has been very inconsistent all season. As a prediction, I think I'm going to go for a Preston home win, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 home win to the Lily Whites there. But a draw wouldn't surprise me either, because I do think I am seeing a little bit of an improvement with Hull game by game with Ruben Sellers coming in. But I just think Preston's strategy at home has proven that it's worked wonders against some really quality sides, and I do think they could get the job done here as well. If there is ever a game that could promise so much but could end up being a damp squib, it might be this game. Sheffield United going up against Burnley. It's the two best defences in the Championship going up against each other. So already the alarm bells are ringing in my head thinking, is this going to be a 0-0 draw? Personally, I don't think it will. I think both of these sides will know a win for either one of them can be monumental. Now, one thing I do know for a fact, Burnley, for me, have picked up some really good away wins against some tough sides that, they probably would not have backed to get results against. I'm thinking Leeds as a really good example. So I do think Burnley are really, really good at picking up these wins or even these draws in these really tough games. But Sheffield United, however, have looked so organised all season. But one thing I will say, I don't think Sheffield United have been too great in their past couple of games. They have won by 2-0 against Plymouth and Cardiff, but I think both occasions they did look a bit second best at times. So it's going to be interesting to see, can Sheffield United bring it into this game, because this is undoubtedly, I think, going to be Sheffield United's biggest test so far this season. Prediction, I think it's going to be a draw, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I can't bear it if it's a 0-0 draw, but I'm going to go for a draw and a 1-1. So I've not predicted too many draws so far. I think this one's a really good opportunity to do one there, and honestly, it wouldn't really help either one of them, but I think it would prove that both of these sides are going to be right up there, high up in the table by the end of the season. Swansea and QPR is next, and both have had different results. Swansea, of course, as I mentioned, involved in that defeat against Hull City, came a little bit out of nowhere, and actually Swansea have had some pretty poor results as of late, which is surprising considering it looked like that they were getting their act together. But again, I think we're seeing a very typical Championship streaky side with some brilliant performances for a good period, and then it's followed by a couple of below par performances, and that's potentially what side we're getting with Swansea at the moment. QPR are doing all they can to climb themselves away from danger. They're currently 14th place in the table, and they're doing so tremendously. And in fact, 3 of their 5 wins so far this season have actually come in all in their last 5 games. So it's certainly QPR putting the accelerator regarding their Championship form so far. It could continue here, but honestly, I do think Swansea are really good at home in general. QPR have been okay on the road, so I do think it's a tough one, you know. I wouldn't be surprised if one goal settles it between the two, but I'm so on the fence for both. So as a prediction overall, I'm going to go for a draw. I do think Swansea are going to be a tough test for QPR. It's just a question whether QPR can carry on with their form, and I do think this is going to be a very, very tough one for them. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, I think. But honestly, if any of them edge it out by 1 goal, again, I really wouldn't be surprised. It's a very, very close game, this one. Next up, we see Watford going up against Portsmouth. Again, we've seen, you know, a lot of games between sides with very differing results last weekend out. So Watford were involved in a very narrow defeat against Burnley. It ended by 2-1. They were actually one of the very few teams who have scored against Burnley at Turf Moor this season. So I guess that's a very small pat on the back for Watford's point of view, and made it a little bit tough, a little bit competitive in that game, and did show a little bit of vulnerability of Burnley's dominance from the Championship so far this season. Portsmouth showed their dominance in a big way in their last game. They beat and demolished Coventry by 4-1. It was like the very first notable, you know, below par performance from Coventry under Frank Lampard. I do think here, though, with their away form, Portsmouth, I don't think it's been anywhere near as strong as their form at Fratton Park so far this season. And Watford, as we know, are very, very good at home. They've proven that a majority of their points have come from home games, and I think that's going to continue here. As a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory to Watford. I do think it's going to be relatively comfortable. I do think Portsmouth could have some competitiveness, but I do think it's going to be Watford overall that just take their chances and they'll be able to edge out in this game. Penultimate game is Derby and West Brom. Derby, as I mentioned, were involved in a devastating defeat, I would say, against Luton Town. To be winning by stoppage time and to still lose by 2-1, it's not something to be proud of for Derby County. And Derby are a side that are tinkering around near the low part of the table. They've only picked up 1 win in their last 5, which of course was that 4-0 win against Pompey, of course. But I do think as a whole, Derby's form is starting to slow down a bit, and they've got a decent cushion, a 6-point cushion from the bottom 3, but they do need to be careful that they're not too complacent and they start getting dragged into it. West Brom, to me, have actually been really good, and actually to have 3 games in a row where it's not ended in a draw, I do think West Brom fans can start dreaming. However, one development that has just taken place, which I think is going to make things very interesting, for what I'm aware of, Corberan is not going to be in the dugout in this game in Boxing Day, because it looks like he's going to be appointed as Valencia's new head coach. I mean, it was something I did not foresee happening. I did know Valencia had a managerial vacancy going around, but I did not think that they would get it as swiftly as that. And literally within days ago, seeing Corberan lead West Brom to a very comfortable win against Bristol City, I don't think it was a dominant, but it was a very comfortable performance from West Brom as a whole. And I do think that makes things very, very vulnerable for West Brom actually going into this game. So I was thinking 2-1 West Brom, but honestly, I think now with the vulnerability, without having Corberan, and I don't know what they're going to do in terms if like an assistant's going to come in there, I think I'm going to change my mind literally last minute, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this game. And this will be a good result for Derby just to get a point, just to start going through their way. But I think certainly for West Brom, I think once they get someone in who knows what to deal with that squad and whether it's going to be someone who plays a similar brand. I think it could take the squad a little bit of time before they start getting their form back, because I do think it's really poor timing actually, because I do think West Brom was starting to click and they did look a little bit better quite recently. So I'm going to go for a draw, and who knows what sort of West Brom we're going to see coming Boxing Day. Last game to predict today is Stoke and Leeds. So Stoke have been struggling with their form. 4 defeats in their last 5 is proving to be the form that is just taking them just above the relegation zone. But if they are not careful, they are going to start getting dragged into that position. We saw Hull win recently. Plymouth could win soon. We could see, Oxford and Cardiff playing against each other. If any of them win, they'll really close the gap on Stoke as well. So the pressure's really on them to see if they can get a result. But against Leeds, it's not one of the teams you want to be facing. But if there's anything that they could be a bit confident with, I still think Leeds have got a lot of answers and doubters regarding their away form. If you do remember, they were very fortunate to get a draw in their last away game against Preston. And I do think, whilst they have certainly got a formula to play well at home, I don't think they've quite cracked it away from home. And I do think Stoke are more likely to get results at home than away from home. I've been really, disappointing with their away outings. But at home, I actually think Stoke have been okay. Prediction, therefore, and I'm going to go for a shock. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I don't think I've gone for too many shock predictions or results, but I'm going to go for this one just to mix things up a bit. And I do think I am due to get, a little bit of an outlandish prediction. So I'm going to go for a draw on this one. Maybe you might not deem that as outlandish, but let me know if you think it's outlandish in the comments down below. So there we have it. That's my score predictions for Boxing Day done. I am recording this on Christmas Eve and we'll edit this on Christmas Eve as well. So have a Merry Christmas Eve, everyone. Have a very Merry Christmas tomorrow and enjoy Boxing Day as well. It's always really nice to hear what all of you are doing. The stream I did recently was amazing to hear what you guys were doing as well. And for anyone celebrating Christmas alone, I do wish you the most merriest of Christmases as well. And if you are struggling with that, we have got an amazing Discord channel, which is in the description down below, which you could attend at your own will. And we've got such a wonderful community who will stick around and talk to you about most things. So we do have a really loving community around, and just remember that you're never alone. Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please smash the like button, subscribe and share. All those things really do help. You guys are legendary for showing this video. And as always, I'll see you guys soon and have a Merry Christmas. Take care, everyone.